Imagine a single moment that can flip your fate from hopeful to horrifying, a moment where a confident accuser realizes, too late, that the person they're prosecuting holds far more power than anyone imagined. In this story, reputations hang by a thread, hidden loyalties threaten entire communities, and a swift turn of events leaves everyone gasping for truth. Ready for the tale of a lifetime? Hello, viewers. Welcome back to Epic Stories, where we unravel mind-blowing dramas filled with high stakes, unpredictable twists, and moments of raw courage. If riveting stories of justice and redemption are your jam, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that will have you hooked from start to finish. A bustling courtroom in the city of Riverton sets the stage on an oppressively hot afternoon. Detective Jameson Hunt sits at the prosecutor's table, his gray eyes steady and self-assured. He is certain he is about to secure yet another slam-dunk conviction. Across the aisle stands Sasha Morgan, a poised black woman with a serene demeanor that belies the gravity of the case. The public gallery is filled to capacity. Some watchers murmur their outrage, while others grip the wooden benches in silent hope. No one suspects that beneath these routine legal proceedings lurks a labyrinth of betrayals, hidden identities, and revelations that will jolt every spectator to the core. By the time the gavel comes crashing down, lives will be forever changed. Detective Hunt has built a strong reputation in his 8 years on the Riverton police force, stationed primarily in the gritty district of Highcrest. This evening, his sense of anticipation is electric. He believes this arrest could catapult him to an even brighter future, maybe a promotion to captain or a springboard into local politics. He has been on the force long enough to witness all manner of arrests, but there is something about Sasha Morgan and the circumstances of this night that sets his nerves humming. Red and blue lights strobe across the cracked pavement in front of a shabby convenience store. 2 police cruisers block the street, forming a makeshift barrier. Neighborhood residents peer from dingy windows and behind rusted fences, phone cameras flickering. Hunt's partner, Officer Hannah Monroe, stands behind him, her gaze scanning every inch of the scene. Bullet casings pepper the asphalt. A sedan sits at a crooked angle, one window shot out, its metal body scarred by stray bullets. And seated in the driver's seat is Sasha Morgan. She is in her mid-30s with a certain calm elegance about her. Though the entire area screams chaos, she sits like the eye of the storm. Hunt can't decide if her composure is confidence, innocence, or simply shock. "Keep your hands where I can see them," Hunt orders, his sidearm pulled but angled downward. Sasha complies, turning a solemn gaze toward the detective. "You're making a mistake," she says, her voice so serene it almost makes Hunt's heart skip. He is used to frantic denials or resentful outbursts. This tone of quiet confidence throws him off. Officer Monroe moves in, holstering her own weapon as she opens the car door. Sasha steps out without a fight, letting Monroe guide her arms behind her back. "We got a call about shots fired," Hunt says, forcing his words to sound decisive. "Your car matches the description." Sasha meets Hunt's eyes, a flicker of determination reflecting in them. "I never fired a weapon," she replies. He almost wants her to protest more, to show some crack in that unshakable calm. "A witness says otherwise," he counters, though the tip was anonymous. She doesn't budge or argue. She merely stands there, hands cuffed behind her back, her chin lifted as if she believes everything will sort itself out. Some elderly onlooker yells, "She didn't do nothing." But Hunt ignores them. He has a job to do. And from his perspective, the bullet holes, the casings, and the anonymous phone call all weave a neat, tidy case, just the kind a go-getter detective can leverage for future success. Sasha is placed gently into the back of a cruiser while neighbors and passers-by keep their cameras rolling. Hunt meets with Monroe to discuss their next steps. Monroe explains they received an anonymous tip about a black woman in a dark sedan exchanging gunfire with an unknown party who fled. No victim has turned up, no body is on the ground, but in Highcrest, gang-related violence is hardly a surprise. Hunt reasons the missing shooter might be hiding out or long gone. He is sure Sasha played some role in this altercation, especially with that bullet hole in her vehicle. He finishes the night shift feeling triumphant. The paperwork will be straightforward, and in the grand scheme, it seems like an uncomplicated case, an alleged shootout, a suspect in custody, decent evidence. By sunrise, social media will be buzzing about how Detective Hunt bagged another violent offender. Little does he know, each self-assured sentence he types into his official report will snare him in a net of deceit he never saw coming. On the other side of the law, behind cold steel bars, Sasha Morgan sits unruffled, methodically planning her next step. Hunt wakes the next morning energized. The bright sun slants through his curtains, hinting at another scorching day in Riverton. He dresses swiftly and drives to the station, mind whirling with plans on how to present the case to the assistant district attorney. He is known as a detective who rarely falters. Deep down, he feels this collar will shine on his record. Down in the records department, he asks for Sasha's file, expecting a rap sheet. Instead, the clerk finds nothing: no arrests, no warrants, not even a traffic violation. It's as if Sasha Morgan lives a spotless life. That's odd, Hunt mutters, flipping through the blank pages. Typically, anyone entangled in a shootout has some skeleton in their closet. Something. Some old tie to petty crime, a vengeful ex, or questionable associations. But Sasha is a ghost on paper. He next checks with forensics about the shell casings retrieved at the scene. Standard .38 caliber, the lab tech says, too common to narrow down in a city like Riverton. No prints on the casings, and no gun found. If no evidence surfaces that Sasha even had a weapon, the prosecutor's case might collapse. Despite the mounting doubts, Hunt remains certain Sasha knows more than she admits. Determined to make her talk, he heads to the holding cells to question her. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting harsh shadows along the corridor of steel doors. Sasha sits composed on a metal bench, her posture impeccable. Hunt starts with directness, trying to unsettle her. Sasha Morgan, he says, drawing out her name. Community worker, no record. Mind telling me what you were doing in a shootout? She tilts her head but stays calm. I wasn't in a shootout. I told you. I heard gunfire, and that's all. All we have is your word, Hunt shoots back. Witnesses place you there, bullet casings next to your car, a big bullet hole in your sedan. An anonymous tip, Sasha corrects him gently, maintaining eye contact. No one saw me fire anything. Are you certain there was even a second shooter? Her tranquility gnaws at Hunt. Typically, detainees hurl blame, plead, or beg for lawyers. Sasha's borderline empathy feels like she's reading him more than he's reading her. He offers one final shot: if there's anything you want to share that will help your situation, now's the time. She remains silent, then calmly responds, you have to do your job, detective. And I understand that. But the truth will come out soon. Frustrated, Hunt leaves her in the cell. Is she bluffing, or genuinely confident she has done nothing wrong? Either way, he has a gut feeling something bigger is unfolding behind her unwavering gaze. By mid-afternoon, Sasha's attorney arrives, Camille Preston, a tall, poised woman in a tailored navy suit. She breezes into the interrogation room, greeting Sasha with a mix of professionalism and warmth. Hunt watches behind the mirrored glass, noticing how Sasha's face softens. Moments later, Camille steps out, requesting to review any incriminating evidence. All we have so far is the bullet hole, .38 shell casings, and an anonymous caller who placed her at the scene, Hunt responds. Camille's eyebrow arches. No recovered weapon. No witnesses willing to testify that my client pulled the trigger. Her words are sharp as knives. We're working on that, Hunt insists. Camille smirks. Then I'll be filing for immediate release on bail. Sasha Morgan is a respected member of the community and poses no flight risk. Just then, the door swings open to reveal Assistant District Attorney Lionel McNeil, a man known for his tough-on-crime stance and smooth political alliances. He quickly confers with Camille, both throwing around citations and procedures. Finally, McNeil decides Sasha will remain in custody a little longer, at least until the bail hearing. He needs time to comb through the evidence. Camille leaves with a flare of professional indignation, casting Hunt a look that says, "This is far from over." As the day wanes, Hunt's self-assured stance weakens. For every piece of evidence pointing to Sasha's guilt, 3 other details muddy the waters. If Sasha truly is an innocent bystander, then who fired the shots? And why point a finger at her? The next day, Hunt's partner Monroe texts him, "We've got footage from the store's CCTV." They meet in the squad room, eager for clarity. On the grainy video, Sasha's car pulls up to the convenience store. Sasha steps out, but something off-screen startles her. She freezes, then abruptly ducks as if bullets zip overhead. A second car silver edges into the far corner of the frame, then disappears. Sasha scrambles back into her car, nearly hugging the pavement in an attempt to stay low. No gun in her hands. No sign of her returning fire. Monroe rewinds the footage, frowning. She looks more like a victim caught in crossfire, not a shooter. Hunt rubs his jaw. So the bullet hole might be from stray shots. This new clarity unsettles him. The evidence now suggests they locked up a likely innocent woman. And if Sasha was telling the truth, someone deliberately fingered her for reasons unknown. Monroe quietly asks, could someone have set her up? Hunt isn't sure. But the question echoes in his mind. Later that afternoon, Sasha's bail hearing unfolds in a crowded courtroom. Judge Annalise Ford, famed for her stern fairness, presides. ADA McNeil tries to argue Sasha is a prime suspect in a violent crime, but Camille counters effectively with the store video. The hearing ends with Judge Ford setting a modest bail, citing insufficient proof Sasha fired a weapon. Sasha's composure never falters, though Hunt notices the faintest sigh of relief when the judge announces her decision. Walking out of the courtroom, Hunt feels a swirl of shame and relief. The shame comes from the possibility that he almost railroaded an innocent person. The relief stems from seeing Sasha free, especially if she truly doesn't belong behind bars. For the briefest moment, their eyes meet. Sasha nods at him, not in smugness but a quiet acknowledgement. It leaves him strangely humbled. Back at the precinct, Hunt pores over the initial police report. Anonymous caller. Shots fired. A black sedan. Minimal details. He resolves to investigate that tip more rigorously. Often, anonymous calls come from fearful neighbors in Highcrest, but something about this call nags him. Why no mention of other vehicles? Why no willingness to describe the supposed second shooter? He jots a note, trace 911 call. If this was a deliberate frame job, maybe the caller is tied to something bigger. Before leaving for the day, Hunt calls an old acquaintance at the local FBI field office, Jonas Perry. "Jonas, I need a deeper background check on Sasha Morgan. She's squeaky clean in our system, but my gut says there's more." "Sure," Jonas replies. "But you have to keep this hush-hush." Hunt agrees, though a twinge of guilt hits him. He's stepping outside normal police channels, but the normal route doesn't seem to be cutting it. Something about Sasha's calm confidence feels like a riddle he must solve. Meanwhile, word spreads that Sasha Morgan has been released on bail. She returns to her daily life, heading to work at the Bridgeway Foundation, a nonprofit known for its generous scholarships and youth outreach. The community erupts in polarized chatter, Some claim her arrest was racially motivated, pointing at systemic issues within Riverton's police force. Others whisper that Sasha's unscathed record feels too perfect, that she must have powerful backers behind the scenes. In reality, Sasha sits alone in her modest apartment that night, going over carefully coded notes and a private phone known only to a few. Under the lamplight, her eyes skim through intelligence on gang movements, unscrupulous officials, and a timeline of secret communications. If everything goes according to plan, she'll not only clear her name but help root out corruption that has plagued Highcrest for years. Early the next morning, Sasha meets Detective Danielle Clark in a secluded corner of Portside Park, far from prying eyes. Unlike local detectives, Clark works with the FBI's Internal Integrity Task Force. Her mission? Probe infiltration of gangs into local institutions including the police. Together, Clark and Sasha discuss the possibility that a corrupt network deliberately fingered Sasha to discredit her. Already, the FBI suspects someone within Riverton PD might be selling info to a notorious gang. Sasha listens with furrowed brows. So they wanted me locked away. Possibly to punish me for the intel I've been feeding you. Clark nods gravely. We think so. And the one leading that gang is Rico Suarez. We suspect he has been paying off certain officials. There's a bad apple at your local station, Sasha. Stay on guard. Sasha's heart pounds. With her philanthropic connections, she has quietly funneled useful data to the FBI for months. She swallows her fear. I won't blow my cover, she vows. If I reveal how closely I'm working with you, it's over for both of us. Clark agrees. Keep moving as if everything's normal. We'll keep investigating from our end. They part ways, each consumed by the magnitude of the stakes. Sasha especially feels the tension. She wants the city's at-risk youth to escape the cycle of violence. Yet tonight, she is at risk herself, targeted by criminals who see her philanthropic facade for what it is, a vantage point into Highcrest's darkest corners. That same afternoon, Detective Hunt spots Sasha's name in local headlines. Alleged shooter freed on bail, the tabloids proclaim. The piece is sensationalist, implying the police bungled the case or caved to political correctness. Tired of the swirling rumors, Hunt tries calling Jonas Perry for updates on Sasha's background check. No answer. Hours later, an anonymous text appears on Hunt's phone, "Stop digging or pay the price." He stares at the message, adrenaline jolting him. This is no random spam, it's a warning. From whom? The next day, after pushing harder, Jonas finally calls. Look, Jameson, I don't know what you got yourself into, but Sasha Morgan's federal file is sealed. When I tried accessing it, I got shut down. She's got serious protection from higher-ups. A chill seeps into Hunt's spine. Protected? You mean she's involved with some federal operation? Something along those lines, Jonas replies. And my supervisors told me to drop it, so I'm giving you the same advice. Tread carefully, Hunt. This is bigger than you realize. The line goes dead, leaving Hunt's mind spinning with scenarios. If Sasha is federally protected, she might not be an ordinary suspect at all. Could she be law enforcement herself? An informant? An agent? Later, Hunt drives to Sasha's apartment complex under the guise of interviewing neighbors. But he knocks on her door, half hoping to glean new insights from Sasha directly. She opens the door, expression calm, though a flicker of surprise crosses her features. Detective, she greets, stepping aside so he can enter her small but inviting living room. Soft, neutral-tone decor, a shelf of well-read books about community activism and justice, a couple of motivational posters. The space feels genuine. Hunt scans it, then meets her eyes. I'm here to see if you or your neighbors remember anything else from that night. A transparent excuse, but he tries to maintain composure. She motions for him to sit on the couch. "I've already told you everything. Why do I sense you're still not sure what to believe?" He attempts to phrase his question carefully. "You don't act like someone with no resources. You're calm. Even after jail. Most innocent people would be frantic to prove themselves, but you're just waiting." Sasha's expression softens. "Sometimes we wait because we trust the truth will surface. I'll be cleared once all the facts are in place." Hunt studies her, fighting an internal battle. If she is truly an undercover operative, whatever that might mean, he is on the verge of botching a major federal case. Yet he can't simply brush aside a potential suspect. "Just know I'm trying to find answers too," he says finally. Sasha nods, offering the slightest smile. "I appreciate that." Unbeknownst to them, Detective Clark and a small FBI team observe someone else, a low-ranking Riverton officer named Travis Rogers, who has had suspicious interactions with known criminals. One night, Clark and her colleagues tail Rogers to a disreputable bar in the far corner of Highcrest, a known hangout for Suarez's men. Huddling in an unmarked car, they watch as Rogers meets with a tattooed thug. Money and documents change hands. Clark's heart hammers. This is a confirmation that infiltration goes beyond street corners. But they need more to implicate Rogers in framing Sasha. If Sasha's philanthropic initiatives threaten Suarez's empire, taking her out via the police force would be a calculated move. Meanwhile, Sasha tries to resume normalcy at the Bridgeway Foundation, finalizing scholarship applications. Her boss, Teresa Lynn, is a local hero admired for her unwavering support of underserved communities. Teresa notices Sasha's preoccupation, but Sasha just smiles apologetically. "Some personal matters," she murmurs, "but I'm all right." Teresa's phone lights up with calls from donors concerned about the rumored charges against Sasha. Teresa defends her wholeheartedly, urging them to reserve judgment until the truth is revealed. Sasha's role has always been crucial. She is a liaison to schools in the hardest-hit neighborhoods. Without her, the foundation risks losing direct insight into how to help. Late that evening, Sasha double-checks her phone as she locks the foundation's office. An unfamiliar number calls. She answers. A gruff voice growls, "We know you're causing trouble. Keep your mouth shut, or you'll regret it." Then it hangs up. Sasha's heartbeat thunders as she stands alone in the poorly lit parking lot, the phone still pressed to her ear. She quickly messages Detective Clark, "Threat just received. Probably Suarez's men." Clark's response is swift, "Understood. Stay vigilant." The shadows around Sasha loom ominously. But her resolve only grows stronger. She is not backing down now, not when she's out this close to unveiling the conspiracy. At the precinct, Detective Hunt focuses on the name Travis Rogers, scanning through internal logs and cross-referencing with arrests in Highcrest. Some red flags appear: incomplete records, unusual release forms, a pattern of assigned shifts that align suspiciously with major crimes. As he digs deeper, another anonymous text hits his phone: "You're out of your depth." Shaken yet more determined, Hunt reports his suspicions to Captain Fiona Blake, a firm but fair-minded leader. She stands by the window in her tidy corner office, arms crossed as she listens to Hunt. "Captain, I think Rogers is feeding intel to a gang run by Rico Suarez," Hunt explains, describing the suspicious patterns. "He could be behind the tip that set up Sasha Morgan." Blake exhales slowly. "If that is the case, we have a serious cancer in our department. And if Sasha's name is linked to the feds, we could be interfering in a high-level operation. For now, keep quiet and gather proof. Let us not tip off Rogers before we have something concrete." Hunt nods. "Understood." Days pass, culminating in Sasha's preliminary hearing. Despite the store footage that points to her innocence, the prosecution, led by ADA McNeil, is under pressure to appear tough. The hearing is tense. McNeil references the shell casings and bullet holes while Camille Preston dismantles the lack of direct evidence. Hunt, called as a witness, testifies he found no weapon on Sasha and never actually saw her fire a shot. Even he can't help but underscore the dubious nature of the anonymous tip. The judge adjourns to review the arguments, ultimately dismissing the case for insufficient evidence. News outlets run with sensational headlines, half proclaiming justice served, and the other half insinuating dangerous criminal walks free. But all the while, the real threat lies hidden in the city's underbelly. Relieved but not complacent, Sasha returns to the Bridgeway Foundation. She organizes a fundraising gala, a centerpiece event designed to bring in major donors. Normally, she'd be all smiles, but now anxiety simmers beneath the surface. She suspects trouble could erupt at any moment, especially if Suarez and Rogers realize their frame-up backfired. When the night of the big charity gala arrives, Sasha orchestrates the festivities with impeccable care. Twinkling lights drape the venue. Local jazz musicians play softly. Well-dressed patrons nibble or over. Among the crowd, Detective Hunt lingers in plain clothes, scanning the scene. This is a philanthropic event, not a battleground, but Highcrest's criminals have a way of breaching even the safest havens. Midway through the evening, a stocky man in a dark jacket slips past the check-in table. His face is set in grim determination. Sasha, stationed at a welcome booth, recognizes him from old FBI photos, a known Suarez associate. Her heart rate spikes as she discreetly gestures for help. Spotting her alarm, Hunt intercepts the man. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm here for Sasha Morgan," the intruder snarls, pushing Hunt aside with surprising force. Guests turn in confusion and fear. In that charged moment, the man reaches into his coat. A flash of metal. A gunshot cracks through the air. Shrieks echo as people dive under tables, crystal glasses shattering on the floor. Sasha, knees trembling, crouches behind a pillar while Hunt wrestles the assailant's hand, forcing the gun muzzle upward. Another shot fires, ricocheting off a marble column. The echo rings in Sasha's ears. Security guards rush in, tackling the intruder. The moment the gun clatters free, Hunt shoves it away, adrenaline roaring in his veins. Police vehicles scream onto the scene within minutes, red and blue flashing across the decorative lights like macabre strobe effects. Sasha emerges from her hiding spot, shaking but unhurt. Guests cluster near the exits, shock plastered on their faces. The gala is reduced to chaos: overturned centerpieces, spilled champagne, and panicked donors. Teresa Lynn, eyes brimming with tears, rushes to Sasha, hugging her tight. The hush that falls over the crowd throbs with residual fear. Finally, Detective Clark steps in with several FBI agents. She identifies the shooter as a low-level thug from Suarez's gang. It's clear he intended to either scare or eliminate Sasha. Possibly both. The local authorities hush the crowd, ushering them outside for statements. Stepping aside, Sasha thanks Hunt, her voice wavering. "You saved my life." His expression is grim, but a flicker of warmth breaks through. "Just doing my job. Are you all right?" Sasha nods, reining in her shaken nerves. She thinks this is the price for taking on powerful criminals. It was never going to be easy. 2 days after the harrowing attempt on Sasha Morgan's life at the Bridgeway Foundation's charity gala, the city of Riverton woke before dawn to the strobing red and blue of a massive law enforcement operation. The FBI, Riverton PD's Internal Affairs Unit, and an elite group of trusted officers among them, Detective Jameson Hunt, moved in perfect coordination. Their objective was simple in theory yet dangerous in execution: bring down Rico Suarez and uncover any officers in league with him. Operation Cleanup, as it was unofficially called, kicked off at precisely 4 a.m. Unmarked vans fanned out to known gang hideouts, SWAT teams raided stash houses in Highcrest, and certain squad cars carried internal affairs agents ready to arrest compromised police officers. In one of these squad cars, Detective Hunt sat, gripping a folder of incriminating documents. Most of that evidence had emerged thanks to Sasha's undercover efforts and the painstaking detective work of Detective Danielle Clark at the FBI. First on the list was Officer Travis Rogers, the man Hunt strongly suspected had orchestrated Sasha's frame-up. Rogers had grown careless in recent weeks, brazenly meeting Suarez's henchmen in public spaces. The final straw was the evidence of hush payments captured on camera. In the gray pre-dawn light, the raid team found Rogers sitting alone in his cruiser, about to start his shift. Before he could even step out, internal affairs officers swarmed in. Detective Hunt stood by as they ordered Rogers to exit the vehicle. Rogers, stunned, had no choice but to comply. Officer Rogers, one of the internal affairs agents, declared, "You're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and aiding a criminal organization. Step out with your hands where we can see them." Rogers' eyes darted in panic, but the muzzle of multiple firearms left him no choice. He clambered out, cursing. When his gaze landed on Hunt, a momentary flicker of recognition and perhaps betrayal crossed his features. Hunt stared back, resolute. Rogers sputtered denials, but with each frantic claim, he dug his hole deeper. Handcuffs snapped around his wrists. He was read his rights and loaded into the back of an unmarked car. Simultaneously, a second wave of raids targeted a rundown industrial park on the outskirts of Highcrest. Intel from Detective Clark revealed that Suarez maintained a fortified warehouse there, complete with armed guards and an entire basement set aside for drug packaging. The FBI led this portion of the operation, a methodical takedown complete with battering rams and flashbang grenades. Hunt joined one of the squads infiltrating the warehouse. Inside, the acrid stink of chemicals and stale smoke permeated the air. Metal catwalks crisscrossed overhead. Henchmen appeared from shadowed corners, brandishing weapons, but the SWAT teams advanced like clockwork, forcing the criminals into corners. A brief but furious firefight broke out. Shouts echoed off the high walls. Hunt pressed behind a metal crate, hearing bullets ping around him, adrenaline roaring in his veins. Within minutes, though, most of Suarez's men surrendered. The raid's timing and coordination had neutralized any advantage the gang thought they had. A few gunmen tried to flee through a back exit and were swiftly apprehended. One by one, men with tattoos up their necks and scowling faces were cuffed on the cold concrete floor. Finally, they cornered Rico Suarez himself in an office ringed by tinted glass windows overlooking the warehouse floor. Suarez had boasted for years that no law enforcement could touch him. Armed with a military-grade rifle, he holed up behind an overturned metal desk, taking potshots at the door. An FBI negotiator attempted a peaceful approach via loudspeaker. "We have the building surrounded. Drop your weapon and come out with your hands up." Suarez fired a shot through the office window in defiance, shards of glass raining down onto the catwalk. But when a SWAT unit lobbed tear gas canisters inside, Suarez's bravado faltered. Minutes later, coughing and disoriented, he finally stumbled to the door, dropping his rifle. Agents cuffed him as Detective Hunt stepped into view. "You did all this for a payday?" Hunt muttered under his breath, eyeing the gangster who had terrorized Highcrest for years. Suarez spat on the concrete, face contorted with rage. "You'll regret this," he rasped, but there was no conviction in his voice anymore, just the hollow fury of a man whose empire lay in ruins. By mid-morning, the entire city buzzed with breaking news: the downfall of a major criminal syndicate and the arrest of a corrupt cop within Riverton PD. Patrol cars and FBI vans prowled the streets, ensuring no corner of Suarez's network remained unraided. Reporters flocked to the police barricades, hungry for details. Citizens peered out of windows, uncertain whether to fear or celebrate the sudden influx of authority figures. In the wake of this momentous strike, the chain of command convened. Hunt, battered from the raid but pumped with adrenaline, conferred with the FBI about next steps. Detective Danielle Clark, wearing her standard-issue jacket over a bulletproof vest, joined him in surveying a row of cuffed gang members lined against a brick wall. "This is the biggest bust in Highcrest history," Clark remarked. "Suarez, Rogers, half of his lieutenants, it's a clean sweep." "Thanks to Sasha," Hunt said. Clark nodded. "She risked everything to feed us intel. Once we realized she'd been framed, we knew we had the right lead. I just hope she is safe. We kept her away from the raids to avoid any more attempts on her life." Hunt thought of Sasha's calm expression even during the earlier chaos and felt an odd blend of admiration and guilt. He had once tried to arrest her. Now he was one of her fiercest allies. "I need to check on her," he said quietly. "Make sure she knows it's over." Clark gave a gentle smile. "She'll be debriefed by the U.S. Attorney's office soon. We'll keep her location discreet until it's safe to make everything public." Around them, agents continued documenting seized contraband drugs, guns, even boxes of counterfeit cash. Riverton's organized crime scene had just endured its most devastating blow in years. Yet amid the tactical success, Hunt couldn't shake a swirl of emotions: relief that justice was served, anger at how far the corruption had spread, and a burning sense of responsibility to make things right with Sasha. The next 48 hours resembled a whirlwind of press briefings, booking procedures, and frantic attempts by low-level criminals to cut deals with prosecutors. Officer Travis Rogers, once a fixture at the station, now languished in a holding cell, hurling curses at anyone who passed. Some of the city's more outspoken activists demanded deeper investigations into the department, convinced there were more officers on Suarez's payroll. But the top brass assured the public that the infiltration was limited in scope. Local television headlines blared. "Major bust in Highcrest. Corrupt cop arrested. Was this woman framed?" They showed stock footage of Sasha Morgan, cut from earlier news clips outside the courthouse. Speculation ran rampant: was she a secret agent, or merely a philanthropic worker caught in the crosshairs? One evening, to address the city's growing curiosity, Captain Fiona Blake of Riverton PD and an FBI spokesperson held a joint press conference on the steps of City Hall. Cameras clicked and reporters jostled. "We are committed to rebuilding public trust," Blake proclaimed, her voice steady. "The arrest of Officer Travis Rogers, who acted without the knowledge or approval of this department, shows our readiness to root out corruption. Thanks to the dedicated work of both local and federal investigators, we have dismantled an extensive criminal network led by Rico Suarez." A reporter shouted, "What about the charges against Sasha Morgan? Are you confirming she was innocent?" An FBI representative leaned into the microphone. "We can confirm that Ms. Morgan was not involved in any illegal activity. The initial allegations against her were unfounded. She is exonerated of all suspicion." Reporters pressed for more details, but the statement was carefully worded, revealing no specifics about Sasha's cooperation with the FBI. Captain Blake wrapped it up quickly, promising further transparency once the investigation concluded. Sasha's role revealed behind closed doors. Meanwhile, in a nondescript federal building in downtown Riverton, Sasha sat in a stark conference room. She was out of her usual environment of foundation offices and philanthropic circles. Now, she was deep in the nerve center of the legal machine. The sterile walls, overhead fluorescent lights, and thick binders of documents reminded her that the stakes here were not about scholarships or youth outreach, they were about dismantling a criminal empire. Seated at the table, flanked by Camille Preston, her attorney, and two federal prosecutors, Sasha provided a detailed statement of her experiences. Detective Danielle Clark stood nearby, occasionally offering clarifications. Sasha described how she used her community contacts to gather small but crucial bits of information on Suarez's activities, never overstepping her role in the foundation. She explained how she filtered details through Detective Clark, always careful to avoid drawing attention. She even recounted the terrifying moment she was arrested based on an anonymous tip. The older of the two federal prosecutors, a man with silver hair and a meticulous demeanor, nodded gravely. "Ms. Morgan, your information has been instrumental in obtaining the evidence we needed for these indictments. We commend your courage." Camille added, "We ask that you ensure her name remains confidential in the broader record. She has already endured death threats." The prosecutor assured them that details of Sasha's involvement would be kept sealed for as long as needed. A formal statement of recognition would note her cooperation without making it publicly accessible. Once the paperwork was done, Sasha leaned back in her seat, emotion coursing through her. It felt surreal. She was officially recognized as a major factor in toppling Suarez, yet she couldn't brag about it or even announce it to friends without risking her life. "Does that mean I have to keep lying to everyone?" Sasha asked, swallowing hard. "Because that's what it feels like I've lied to my neighbors, to my coworkers." Clark gave her a compassionate nod. "Sometimes the hardest part of undercover work is knowing that you can't tell people what really happened, at least not yet. If we want to keep you safe and keep open the possibility of future joint efforts, your covert role has to remain classified." Sasha exhaled. After a moment's pause, she agreed. She'd do whatever it took to ensure Riverton found a path to healing, even if it meant staying silent about her role in saving the city from a crime lord. That afternoon, once the official statements were done, Sasha was asked to wait in a side office. Her eyes flicked to the clock, nearly 5 p.m. She felt a mixture of relief, sadness, and hope. Relief that Suarez was finally behind bars. Sadness over how close she'd come to losing everything. Hope that her city would move forward, that young people in Highcrest wouldn't have to be steered into gang life. A gentle knock came at the door. Sasha looked up to see Detective Hunt standing there, hat in hand, looking uncharacteristically nervous. She motioned him in with a faint smile. "Hi," he said softly, stepping inside. "I wanted to check on you. Make sure you're okay." She nodded, gesturing for him to take a seat in a plain metal chair across from her. For a long moment, neither spoke. The tension in the room was a living thing: remorse, gratitude, and a certain unspoken acknowledgement of what they'd been through. "Thank you," Sasha said finally. "I don't know if I got the chance to say that before. If you hadn't intervened at the gala, I could have been." She broke off, eyes drifting downward. Hunt cleared his throat, his voice tinged with humility. "I'm just glad I got there in time. And I'm sorry for arresting you, for not seeing the truth. I was so sure of my case, I let ambition cloud my better judgment." Sasha watched him, measuring his sincerity. "I forgive you, Detective. This whole situation was bigger than either of us realized." He nodded, a ripple of relief crossing his features. "I found out you were well, let's just say you had connections I couldn't have dreamed of. I assume you can't tell me everything." A gentle chuckle escaped Sasha's lips. "No, not everything. Just enough to say that all I ever wanted was to protect innocent people." Hunt shifted, leaning forward slightly. "I admire that. After seeing the scale of Suarez's operation, I realize how crucial your intel was. You basically saved Highcrest." She shrugged, a humble cast to her expression. "I just did my part. A lot of folks in Highcrest, honest folks, have been trying to break free from Suarez's hold for a long time." They lapsed into another silence. Then, in a low voice, Hunt added, "If you ever need anything from the department, from me personally, I'm here. I'd like to start fresh." Sasha extended her hand, and he took it gently. Start fresh, she echoed. I'd like that too. Though the massive raids made citywide headlines for days, life in Riverton gradually settled back into its usual rhythm. Freed from suspicion, Sasha reconnected with her routines at the Bridgeway Foundation, working alongside her boss Teresa Lynn to expand the scholarship program. The media interest in her waned once no formal charges were brought against her. However, those in the know like Detective Danielle Clark and certain top brass at the FBI saw Sasha as a quiet hero. She received discreet gratitude from federal agents who recognized the personal risk she took. In safer circles, Sasha's story spread by word of mouth, the philanthropic leader who had stared down criminals and corruption, all while preserving her grace. Meanwhile, Riverton PD underwent rigorous internal audits prompted by Captain Blake. They revamped guidelines for handling anonymous tips, introduced stricter supervision protocols, and launched a bridge initiative with local nonprofits, hoping to mend trust with residents. Detective Hunt ended up spearheading one such program, an after-school mentorship for teens considering careers in law enforcement or public service. Partnering with the Bridgeway Foundation, he ensured that the young people from Highcrest had real, tangible pathways to safer futures. From time to time, Sasha and Hunt crossed paths at community events. Initially, their interactions were cordial and tinged with a sense of relief that the worst was behind them. Over the weeks, their unexpected alliance deepened. The once headstrong detective and the philanthropic worker had discovered mutual respect and, in fleeting moments, a shared sense of purpose that bound them in an unspoken camaraderie. At a youth conference organized by the Bridgeway Foundation, Sasha took the stage, addressing a crowd of teenagers. "All of us have the right to dream bigger than the limits society tries to impose," she told them. "Sometimes you'll face adversity head-on. But never forget that you can be the solution your community needs. Even if you can't say it out loud, your small steps can topple giants. Trust your resilience, believe in justice, and be prepared for the day you might have to stand up for what's right even if it feels like the entire world is against you." In the back of the auditorium, Detective Hunt watched her speak, a soft admiration glinting in his eyes. He knew the lines between their worlds had blurred. They were no longer just cop and suspect. They were two individuals who had seen how easily corruption could twist the truth, and how crucial it was to fight for justice, no matter the price. Over the following months, the legal machinery churned forward. Travis Rogers found himself at the heart of a corruption trial. Pressured by mounting evidence including Rico Suarez faced a massive federal indictment. Witness after witness recounted his brutality. Some of his own lieutenants turned on him, describing how he ordered hits, arranged drug transports, and laundered money through legitimate businesses. Despite Suarez's attempts to intimidate or bribe key witnesses, the damning evidence collected during Operation Cleanup made his conviction all but certain. He received a prison term so long it equated to a life sentence. The day Suarez's verdict was handed down, Sasha breathed a sigh of relief in her office, thinking of the families in Highcrest who no longer had to fear his wrath. She also took a moment to appreciate her own good fortune. She could have been just another victim, framed and silenced. Instead, she stood free and vindicated. A week later, with the city's tensions easing, the Bridgeway Foundation organized a small gathering to mark the success of their expanded scholarship program. Fewer cameras this time, just a modest celebration with staff, volunteers, and close supporters. There was a sense of triumph in the air, but also humility. Everyone had been reminded how precarious justice can be. Sasha, dressed in a simple but elegant blouse, moved among the guests, hugging old friends and greeting new donors. She spotted Detective Danielle Clark in a corner, sipping iced tea. Making her way over, Sasha smiled. "You decided to come out of the shadows for once?" she teased softly. Clark grinned. "I thought I deserved a little normalcy after all that cloak and dagger. And I wanted to say congratulations. This program expansion is amazing." More kids than ever will get a shot at college, right? Exactly. Sasha's eyes lit up. Thanks for everything, Danielle. I mean it. You shielded me when it mattered most. Clark set down her glass. The credit goes both ways. Had you not been so diligent, we'd have no solid case against Suarez. You could have walked away from the gang rumors, but you didn't. Sasha tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Some things are worth risking everything for. Clark nodded, scanning the room. Speaking of worth, she murmured, I see Detective Hunt is here too. Following Clark's gaze, Sasha spotted Hunt standing by a display of scholarship posters, chatting with a cluster of teenagers. He looked up, met her gaze across the room, and offered a small, warm wave. Go on, Clark whispered, nudging Sasha lightly in the shoulder. Sasha crossed the room, weaving through clusters of talking guests. As she approached, Hunt was congratulating a young man who just received a scholarship to study criminal justice. The team beamed, thanking both the Bridgeway Foundation and Riverton PD for support. Sasha's heart fluttered. Only months ago, such a collaboration would have been unthinkable to her. When the teen stepped away, Hunt turned his full attention to Sasha. You pulled off quite a feat, he said, voice low. Scholarships, a stable community, it's what we always wanted, right? Sasha nodded. If we can save just one kid from falling into the cycle of violence, it's all worth it. But I hope we save hundreds. Hunt smiled. You've definitely made me see policing in a new light. It's not about throwing people in jail to pad arrest numbers. It's about building relationships, bridging gaps. She studied his face, a mixture of earnestness and humility. I never thought I'd say this, detective, but you've changed too. He let out a soft laugh. I guess I learned from the best. They stood there, not needing more words. In the background, the lively hum of conversation continued, but in that moment, the swirl of memory, her arrest, their conflict, the gunshots at the gala seemed far away. What remained was mutual respect and an unmistakable sense of unity. Enjoy the evening, Sasha said gently, giving his arm a friendly pat before drifting away to greet other guests. And in her wake, Detective Hunt felt a deep sense of gratitude that chance, circumstance, or fate, whatever one might call it, had aligned them on the same path. In the days that followed, local news outlets provided in-depth coverage of the Suarez trial. They profiled everyday citizens who had lived in constant fear of the gang's violence. They interviewed nonprofit leaders praising law enforcement for finally shattering the web of corruption. Sasha's name was mentioned sparingly, as if the outlets were cautious. The official line was that she had been cleared of all charges and was back to her charitable work. Rumors still floated around that she had friends in high places, but no one could quite put together the puzzle pieces. Some rumored she was part of a clandestine branch of the FBI, others insisted she must be politically connected. In truth, the full story was known only to a select few. And Sasha, dedicated as ever, turned her focus to what mattered most: the kids, the scholarships, the battered neighborhoods needing renewal. Hunt, for his part, took on more community-based assignments. He still handled routine police work, break-ins, domestic disputes, and the occasional narcotics bust, but he also visited schools to speak about bridging the gap between law enforcement and citizens. He recognized that trust is a fragile thing in Highcrest. Rebuilding it would take effort and time. One afternoon, he received an envelope at the station with no return address. Inside was a single photograph: Sasha standing outside a federal building, shaking hands with Danielle Clark. No caption, no explanation, just the image. Hunt stared at it, realizing it was both a testament to Sasha's hidden role and a warning that others might still be watching. He tore it up, tossing the fragments in a secure trash bin. He resolved not to let paranoia stoke fear. The city was healing, that, he believed, was enough. Despite Suarez's downfall, the criminal justice system churned slowly. More gang affiliates were rounded up, more trials set on the docket. Some of the criminals pleaded out, implicating each other in exchange for lesser sentences. A tapestry of confessions painted a brutal picture of Suarez's dominance and the cooperation of a select group of corrupt cops and officials. In one final push for closure, the U.S. Attorney's Office convened a hearing to consolidate the myriad gang-related charges. Sasha was invited to provide a victim statement anonymously if she preferred. She chose to do so in person, albeit under conditions of confidentiality. The court agreed to seal certain parts of her testimony. Hunt wasn't required to attend, but he did so anyway, seated quietly at the back of the courthouse. He watched Sasha enter, accompanied by Camille Preston. Her posture was upright, her chin high. This was a woman who had faced false accusations, physical threats, and near-death experiences, all while clinging to a faith in justice. And now, here she was, about to speak on behalf of an entire community racked by gang violence. The statement lasted just a few minutes. Sasha shared how the Bridgeway Foundation's employees and volunteers had been hounded by fear of retaliation, how the children they served lived day to day unsure if a bullet might find them. She concluded by imploring the court to hold every guilty party accountable so that neighborhoods like Highcrest could finally break free of the cycle of brutality. When she stepped down from the stand, the courtroom was utterly silent. The judge thanked her for her candor. On the way out, she passed by Hunt, who offered a discreet nod of solidarity. She returned the gesture, a faint but genuine smile tugging at her lips. With Suarez behind bars for life and Rogers serving a hefty sentence, Riverton breathed easier. Not that crime vanished overnight, no city that large becomes pristine in a blink, but the sense of an overbearing, untouchable network evaporated. New neighborhood initiatives sprang up. Local businesses dared to invest in Highcrest, no longer intimidated by extortion rackets. Sasha, though relieved, knew her involvement with federal investigations might not be over. In a quiet conversation, Detective Clark floated the idea of Sasha collaborating on future cases discreetly, of course. Sasha didn't commit immediately. The experiences were still fresh, wounds still healing. For now, she wanted to focus on revitalizing her philanthropic programs without the specter of espionage. One late afternoon, Sasha received a call from Teresa Lynn, her boss. "We got approval for a big youth center in Highcrest. City Council finally allocated the funds. Your testimony during that community hearing must have swayed them. They specifically mentioned how the Bridgeway Foundation helps keep kids off the street." Sasha laughed, relief surging through her. "That's incredible, Teresa. Exactly what we wanted for so long." "That's all you," Teresa insisted. "Let us schedule a groundbreaking ceremony next month." When the day of that groundbreaking arrived, dozens of local residents gathered at a vacant lot near the heart of Highcrest, where the new center would soon stand. Sasha donned a bright yellow hard hat, shovel in hand, beaming for photos. Teresa gave a short speech about community empowerment, acknowledging the donors and city officials who had rallied behind the project. In the crowd, Detective Hunt stood inconspicuously at the back, hands in his pockets. After the official ceremony, he made his way to Sasha. "Congratulations," he said, a proud note in his voice. "This center will mean the world to these families." She smiled, tapping a bit of dirt off her shovel. "I can't wait to see it finished. It's the future now, a safe space where children can learn, play, and dream." They shared a moment of reflective silence. The hush was filled with the promise of fresh beginnings, a sense of hope that all the chaos and darkness might give way to something better. As weeks melded into months, Sasha poured her energy into seeing the youth center plan through. She scouted after-school program directors, solicited donations for library materials and sports equipment, and recruited volunteers. The local high school pledged interns to help run day-to-day activities once the center opened. Detective Hunt continued bridging the police force with the broader community, stepping up as a liaison. He secured a mini-grant from the department's Community Outreach Fund to host conflict resolution workshops at the future youth center. To the cynics, these were baby steps. But to the kids in Highcrest, it signaled genuine change. Every so often, Sasha and Hunt would meet at the empty lot, discussing logistics. Where would the basketball courts go? Did the design include a quiet reading corner? Could they build a small auditorium for performances? They'd swap ideas, each from their own perspective, one as a philanthropic coordinator, the other as a law enforcement officer. Over time, their combined vision crystallized into a blueprint for real progress. When questions about the Suarez case arose at occasional city forums, Sasha kept her answers measured. She wouldn't detail her involvement in bringing him down. Instead, she stressed the importance of collective vigilance. "We keep our community strong by watching out for one another," she told a group of neighborhood leaders. "Corruption feeds on isolation. We can't let fear divide us." Detective Clark, too, visited from time to time, quietly assessing how the city was coping post-Suarez. She carried whispers of new investigations in neighboring counties, where other criminals might be filling the power vacuum. "We'll let you know if we need any specialized insight, Sasha," she said one day, voice hushed. Sasha managed a polite smile, though her heartbeat fluttered at the possibility. She wasn't sure she could dive back into that world again. Not after tasting the raw threat to her life. But she also knew that if pressing danger emerged, she wouldn't just stand by and watch. The city meant too much to her. Late in the year, as a brisk wind swept across Riverton, the Bridgeway Foundation announced a holiday fundraising drive to support the new center. Strings of festive lights adorned their main office, and donation boxes popped up in local shops. On the final night of the campaign, Sasha organized a small festival in the foundation's courtyard, live music, hot cocoa stands, children's choirs, an attempt to bring light and laughter to a corner of the city that had known too much darkness. Detective Hunt volunteered on security detail, though the crowd was joyful and calm. Dressed warmly in a heavy coat, he greeted families at the gate. A few recognized him from local events, shaking his hand and thanking him for standing up against corruption. With each kind word, Hunt felt renewed conviction. Sasha moved among the guests, coordinating the raffle, greeting city officials. The entire place glowed in twinkling lights, echoing hope. By the end of the evening, the donation tally exceeded their expectations. The future youth center was now on track to open ahead of schedule. As the crowd began to thin out, Sasha found Hunt leaning against a corner post, eyes scanning the last of the partygoers. She offered him a paper cup of steaming cider. "Peaceful night, detective?" He sipped, nodding. "Yeah, well, not much to worry about now that Suarez is locked up." She lowered her voice. "You never know. People like him can have long arms even from behind bars. But maybe the hardest part really is over." Hunt looked at her, mind flicking back to the day he first saw her in the back of a patrol car. How dramatically things had changed since then. "I think we're allowed to enjoy the moment, at least," he said. Sasha smiled, watching the overhead lights reflect in the fading winter sky. "I'll try," she replied softly. Winter turned to spring, and as the days lengthened, so did Riverton's sense of renewal. The youth center construction hummed along, with local news occasionally dropping in to document the progress. Sasha juggled the demands of her philanthropic work with her private knowledge of how precarious true safety could be. In fleeting moments like a solitary evening in her apartment or a quiet lunch break, she thought of the night bullets tore through her car, the swirl of red-blue lights, the hiss of cell doors shutting behind her. Yet those memories no longer chilled her. They steeled her resolve. She had stared down the system, confronted corruption, and survived. She had discovered allies in the unlikeliest places, even in the detective who initially saw her as a criminal. Hunt, too, found himself changed. His name circulated for potential promotion, though he hesitated to pursue it. Ambition, he realized, could be a double-edged sword, and he vowed never to put personal gain over genuine justice. The ghost of almost wrongfully convicting Sasha haunted him enough to ensure he stayed honest. He advocated for better training programs for rookies, focusing on anti-bias education and encouraging partnerships with community organizations. One day, a local journalist approached him, wanting an exclusive on the detective who helped bring down the biggest crime ring in Highcrest. Hunt politely declined the chance to grandstand. Instead, he pointed the journalist toward the Bridgeway Foundation and other nonprofits who had done heroic work in the shadows. "It's not about one detective," he said. "It's about all of us police, citizens, community leaders deciding we want to let crime run our streets." By early summer, the youth center was nearly finished. Bright murals adorned the walls, courtesy of local art students. Sparkling new basketball courts gleamed in the sunlight. Inside, half-unpacked boxes of books filled a small library, waiting for shelves. The day of the grand opening arrived like a holiday. Buses brought in children from every corner of Riverton, excited to see what was behind the newly painted doors. A ribbon stretched across the entrance. Teresa Lynn and Sasha stood front and center, giant scissors in hand, the city council members flanking them with wide smiles. Detective Hunt lingered off to the side with a handful of uniformed officers. They'd come to show support, a welcome sight to families who, not so long ago, saw the police as antagonistic. Now, they lined up to shake hands, take photos, and say thank you. It wasn't perfect harmony, but it was progress. With a triumphant snip of the ribbon, the youth center was officially declared open. Children cheered, parents clapped, cameras flashed. And in the swirl of excitement, Sasha felt tears prick her eyes. This was the future she had dreamed of, a safe, inviting place for young people to explore talents, cultivate friendships, and see possibilities beyond Highcrest's troubled past. Hunt caught her eye and gave a respectful nod from across the crowd. She nodded back, smiling through damp lashes, grateful he was here, witnessing the culmination of everything she'd fought for. Over the next hour, staff gave tours of the gym, the art studio, and the computer labs. A local band performed in a multi-purpose room. Volunteers handed out snacks. Kids scampered around, voices echoing with excitement. In one corner, an impromptu basketball game broke out, shoes squeaking on the polished court. Sasha and Teresa eventually gathered the crowd for a short speech. First, Teresa thanked donors and officials. Then she turned the microphone to Sasha. "This center belongs to everyone in Riverton," Sasha said, her tone clear and earnest. From the quiet child who just wants a safe space to read, to the teen with big dreams of becoming an athlete or an artist, or the one who needs guidance to avoid paths leading nowhere good. This is for you. For all of you. We all deserve a chance to hope, to grow, and to become the best we can be. The applause swelled. Sasha spotted Detective Clark in the back, clapping along with a gentle, proud grin. She saw Hunt leaning against a wall, arms crossed, his smile faint but genuine. Later, as the crowd dispersed into the various rooms, Sasha found Hunt in the library section, browsing the brand new shelves. A cluster of kids was already flipping through donated novels. "Pretty neat, huh?" Sasha asked softly, stepping beside him. "Absolutely," Hunt replied. "It's a testament to what a community can do when it unites." They stood there, watching a particularly curious boy pluck a science book off the shelf and grin with wide-eyed wonder. The child darted to a reading corner, already absorbed in the glossy pages. Sasha felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The kind she never truly believed she'd find after everything. "Thank you for being here," she whispered, meaning so much more than just his attendance at the event. Hunt gave a humble shrug. Where else would I be? In a fleeting, shared glance, they acknowledged the path behind them of arrests and near tragedies, revelations of corruption, and a choice to work together instead of against each other. Then they turned back to the children, to the future that, at long last, felt bright.